Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Sergi Paniagua. I'm a business developer at Nemi, which is the startup I'm going to tell you about now. I'm going to start with a very bold sentence about us. Nemi makes public transport in low-density areas feasible by providing a software solution that enables flexible bus services. You might be thinking now, low-density areas, that's very specific. Why? Well, let me tell you how public transport looks like in low-density areas. I'll start by introducing Maria to you. She's a retired lady who lives in a village and enjoys going to town every day. The problem is she's only got one bus for going to town and back. The trip takes over an hour. The bus stop is too far from her home, and also she would like to visit her grandchildren more often, but she can't because there's no stop where they live. Now let's look at it from the perspective of the transport operator or the public authority responsible for the service. In such areas, there is low demand for mobility since we're talking about less populated areas. For this reason, these services have a limited budget, and at the same time, they have to cover big distances, which makes it very challenging to put stops closer to each other or more frequencies throughout the day. At Nemi, we have the technology to solve these issues. We take regular bus services in low-density areas that don't work for anyone, and we turn them into a smart service through the digital solutions that I'm going to present you now. This is the communication leaflet of one of the services we're operating. The map shows all the stops that are available for the user. And if you notice, there's no fixed itinerary. On the bottom left, you can see the schedules for the different frequencies. But there is no timetable for the stops, since the time can change depending on the requests. This is how our services look like in the back office platform. It's a management tool that we created for the operator, and it contains all the information of each service. In this section, you can see the stops and all the possible itineraries between them. And in this other section, you can see the frequencies for the day. Now let's look at the user app. Every person who wants to use the service must make a reservation through the app. I recorded the process on my phone so that I can show you how it works. We would select New Reservation, and once we see the map, we select an origin stop. In our case, it's the village, and the destination stop. We're going downtown. Continue. Now we would select the date of the trip, so we're going to leave it as it is, and the seats that we need to reserve. Then we would press on continue, and the system would now calculate the best option for us. It displays them here. We chose the one at 11 past 4 because it's the time that suits best our needs. And here we have the preview of the reservation. If we go back to the back office, we will now see the route that the vehicle must perform to serve such request. Compare that to the longest possible route, which would go through every village before returning to the city center. Our software always picks the shortest path that satisfies all the requests for the expedition, thus optimizing the service. Because we're skipping those areas with no demand, the vehicle can stay idle at the starting point for longer periods of time, which means that we have the possibility to increase the frequency of the service. In addition, since we're talking about services with low demand, we also have the possibility to deploy more stops and increase the coverage, because we know that not all the stops are going to be requested, so we can actually reach further. Maria could actually go visit her grandchildren and also have a stop closer to her home, and she would also benefit from shorter trips. For the transport operator or the public authority, all of this translates into very significant cost savings. If the public authority is licensing the operation of the service through a transport operator, less kilometers traveled are directly correlated with less cost because public administrations pay the operator for every kilometer traveled. It is the case of some of our services, and to give you an idea of how much it can be saved, we calculated that for 1 month of operation, our solution saved 900 euros to the public authority. If the transport operator is operating the service without subsidy, then less kilometers translate into fuel savings and also into lower maintenance. But the positive impacts don't end here. Let me show you some more numbers of our services under operation. Up until now, I've explained the case of regular bus lines that have been replaced by flexible bus services. But we don't only do this. We have currently 9 services under operation in Catalonia, where we're based, and 6 of these 9 services were deployed where there wasn't any public transport offered before. This means that we gave 16,500 people access to public transport. And to give you some more numbers about the kilometer savings, we calculated that for one of the services in 2 months of operation, we managed to halve the amount of kilometers traveled as compared to the regular bus line. If we translate this into CO2 emissions, it means saving 442 tons of CO2. And this is only the beginning for us. In this map, we're showing you all the flexible bus services that we could potentially deploy during this year and the coming years, just through the clients that we're already working with. There's a huge potential globally for demand-responsive transit, which is valued at $552 billion in 2030. And let me tell you that there are very big players in the market that saw the opportunity. For example, Daimler or Volkswagen. Such players follow the popularity of ride-hailing services like Uber and Lyft and designed services alike, with no fixed schedules and no fixed stops. They aim at maximizing user convenience at any cost and target big cities because they need massive usage levels to be sustainable. We, on the other hand, chose a very different approach. We work to improve mobility in low-demand areas where public transport is most inefficient, and we created a service that's much closer to a regular bus service than it is to a taxi, because we want to improve the overall mobility and aggregate as much demand as possible in fewer trips. Something that's had a lot of influence in this is that we created Nemi under the requirements of a public administration. But how do we make money? Our customers are public transport operators, so it is them who pay for our solutions. We charge them for implementing the service in our platform, for maintaining the service under operation, and we also charge them for our business intelligence service, which consists of analyzing the data more in depth and suggesting improvements to the design of the service. And now that we're talking about data, let me dig deeper in this topic because actually within the HiReach project and the acceleration phase, we made good progress thanks to the advice from our coaches. For the first time, we encountered a situation with the host company that we're working with for the pilot, in which we had to design a service from scratch. The region of Puglia, which is the host company, came to us with different studies, with different sets of data, and told us to show them what we could do in the region. And the problem that they're facing is that they have this, what they call inner areas, which are the areas in green that you see on the map, where the population is very dispersed and the offer of public transport is very poor and very poor quality. So they rely a lot on private cars. And so we chose to focus on one of the main poles in the most southern part of the region, Tricase, and the villages around it. And we looked at the mobility patterns between them to find out which villages had the lowest proportion of bus trips and the highest proportion of private car trips. We suggested some of the villages that could benefit the most from our solution and designed a proposition for a potential route for this flexible bus service. That was just the first exercise. We got the chance to talk to the national railway operator, Ferrovie del Sud-Est. They're very interested in our solution and suggested a pilot for the summer. And we're going to connect with a flexible bus, the station in Gagliano del Capo, with all the towns along the coast that are around it. These are some of the team members that are going to be involved in the pilot. And our strength as a team is that we have background in different disciplines. Myself, I have a background in business, and so does Martí Jofra. And for the rest of the team, they have IT skills which are very necessary for all the developments that we'll have to face in the following months. And talking about this, with the railway operator, we identified the need to incorporate ticketing functionalities and payment functionalities in our app. We are going to incorporate this in our development plans. and it's definitely going to help us reach more customers in the future. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention. If you want to know more about what we do, don't hesitate to contact me on my email address. And I hope you learned something today. Thank you.